Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, welcome folks to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and it's afternoon. This afternoon we have with us Eric Frisch, and I'm going to try to pronounce it again correctly. Copeland Steer Vols Level.
That's right.
Is that right?
It is.
Excellent. Good. Nice to have you with us this afternoon. How are you?
I'm fine. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So just to keep the theme of the show here, what's your morning beverage of choice to get started?
I am a cold brew coffee person. About 2 years ago, got Invisalign braces, which means I can't drink hot coffee in the morning anymore. So I adopted cold brew as my drink of choice.
Oh, nice. Wait, so you have the Invisalign on right now?
I do.
Nice.
I still need a couple more trays before I'm done, they tell me.
You have beautiful straight teeth. I think my dentist told me last time I was there, you could use some Invisalign. The teeth move over time. So anyway, good for you. I never actually, it's funny. I don't think anyone in my family actually, maybe because they didn't do it as much back then. None of us had braces. Both of my kids have had braces, but no one in my family. I was one of 5 boys, no braces.
I did not have braces as a child either. And so this is my first go around with it.
Good stuff. Anyway, we're getting off on a tangent here. We probably don't need to be on. But I like to have fun with this. Why not? So talk about your practice, what kind of work you do.
Yes, for the last 21 plus years, I have spent my practice defending professionals, mostly in malpractice lawsuits, sometimes in regulatory types of things.
Yep.
The majority of those folks are in the healthcare profession, but I also do work for lawyers who are sued or have regulatory issues. And then a smaller part of my practice is spent doing general commercial defense liability work.
Okay. So my dad would have loved you because he was a doctor, and occasionally people would go after him for medical malpractice.
It is a thing, and it's something I've done for my entire time at this law firm.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's almost hard to avoid, right? I mean, if something doesn't come out as you expect, or, whatever that expectation is, I mean, I can see you're going to get in a lot of litigation. There's a lot of it.
Yeah, the stats a couple years ago were that the average doctor could expect to be sued 2.3 times in their entire career. I don't know if that's changed markedly or not, but that's the general thought, is that most practitioners at some point are going to face a malpractice.
Yeah, interesting. And has that statistic gone up or stayed the same?
Not entirely sure. It's probably skewed a little bit right now because the pandemic put a clamp down on a lot of this litigation, so it's a little hard to get a read on it. But it's probably about the same in most states.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, listen, doctors have big egos. I know because I lived with one, and. But I'm wondering if it has any impact on their profession, right? And being a little more cautious if you know that you stand a pretty good chance to be sued by somebody.
It kind of depends. There are some specialties where you're going to be exposed no matter how careful you are. And we know that, for instance, surgery, radiology, and obstetrics are the highest number of cases. In other cases, people let their guard down a little bit because their specialty doesn't get sued very often.
Yeah.
And so it's a little harder for them to look at the lawsuit history as sort of a deterrent or an education factor. But for the most part, most professionals are aware of the litigation environment and take that into account when they're practicing.
Yeah. So you're in the state of Georgia. Is there tort reform to provide some limits to that?
So we had a tort reform package back in 2005, was the last time we attempted it. A number of the statutes that they passed back then were declared unconstitutional for various reasons, and then there's some leftover parts. There is nothing currently before the legislature that I'm aware of for a new tort reform package.
So what's your biggest concern, though, when you're defending, if there is no limit? Obviously, you're trying to protect against these big verdicts, right?
Yes, and we've had an increasing number of very large verdicts in Georgia recently. In fact, there was one this week, I believe one of the highest medical malpractice wrongful death verdicts I'm aware of at 75 million.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's enough to keep us up at night when we're defending these cases. Yeah.
So how do you manage that risk? What do you do to make sure that your case is rock solid and you're not going to get a $75 million judgment?
We spend a lot of time working with our clients and our expert witnesses to understand the medicine, to understand the facts of the case, and to develop a plan about how we're going to explain it to 12 jurors, virtually who are never going to have any experience with a lot of the concepts we'll be talking about. So we spend a lot of time just rolling up our sleeves and working real hard to develop the best defense that we can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes you're going to get a case that the defendant is in the wrong, right? I mean, you're going to do your best to defend them, but it's going to go against you.
That's true. And so a unique part about professional liability cases is that for the insurance policies they have, most of them have a provision in there that in order to settle the case, the insurance company needs the written consent of the insured. And so that puts the control in the hands of the professional as to whether they want to settle or not. We advise them of the risks and benefits, and occasionally, even though we can't find an expert witness for somebody or they admit that they have done something wrong, we still have to go try the case. And there are ways, sometimes we do admit that we violated the standard of care in some way, but we didn't cause the injury, or the injury is not as severe as they say it is, and those sorts of things. Those are not frequent occurrences, but for the most part, ultimately the decision lies with the professional as to whether they're going to settle the case before trial or not.
Oh, I see. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, obviously, if they feel like they're right, you're going to push it as far as you can. You're going to take it to trial.
Yep, and we are, as trial lawyers, we like to say, we don't always pick our clients. It's their case. We get up and we advocate the best we can for them with whatever we have to work with. I've had the unique pleasure of trying a case where we were fairly certain our client did something wrong. We didn't have an expert witness. We didn't even have all of the medical records that we needed. And we got kind of thrown into the fire at the last minute and went in there with basically knowing we were going to lose the case the entire time.
Yeah.
It's actually a little bit of a liberating experience when you know you're going to lose. So you just go in and you kind of freewheel it and have some fun with it, because you're not as uptight about it as if everything's on the line.
Yeah. Interesting. So do you use focus groups and mock trials to prepare?
Every chance we can.
Okay.
We like those types of jury research or opinion research exercises. A couple different ways to do them. I've had cases where I've done it 2, 3, or 4 times before just to get an idea. And sometimes the things we take to those exercises are different questions each time, and you're looking at different things. So, but we use that whenever we can.
Yeah. Okay, good. Excellent. Yeah. What other kind of technology does the firm use to become better and more efficient?
Yeah. So at trial, we are moving in the direction of being almost paperless in our presentations. And you can imagine with professional liability cases, tons of medical records and bills and things like this. And over time, in most cases, we use an outside vendor to run those things for us. But I've started doing it where I've done it from an iPad using a program that we control. But the idea being is that, ultimately cases tend to come down to about 30, 40, maybe 100 key pages out of large volume of documents. You isolate those ones, and then you focus your presentation on those particular pages. And we find that the jurors respond really well when people use that kind of technology in the courtroom.
Yeah. Okay. So you're a trial attorney. So, I mean, is it is that the goal, to go to trial as much as you can? And I mean, how many? I mean, most things settle, right? So you're not going into the courtroom.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. As a trial lawyer, of course, you love going into the courtroom.
Yeah.
That's what you live for. It's the preparation going into it that can be the hardest part of everything. Cases do settle. Cases sometimes get disposed of on motions. But ultimately, as when we're representing professionals, as we say, they have the ultimate control over whether the case settles. So we go and we try the cases that where a resolution can't be reached for any reason. We'll go in and try it.
Yeah. And Georgia, I know, is one of those states, probably like where I am in Florida, where it didn't shut down that much, did it, during COVID?
We had kind of varied. So we have 159 counties, and I'm pretty sure that they did it 159 different ways. So in Metro Atlanta, there's 5 major metro counties. I think 3 or 4 of them really did shut down substantially, and a couple of them kind of in between a little bit. And even in our biggest county, it was sort of the one half was really shut down, and one half was not as shut down as the other half. So we had a little bit of everything.
Got it. Yeah, no, I understand completely what you're saying. It's kind of a mosaic. When people talk about Florida, I always say it's like a mosaic. Really just depends on where you are.
Yeah, definitely. The outside the metro Atlanta area and the major city areas, the shutdown wasn't nearly as significant to most folks as it was in the metro areas.
Right. Are you a native Atlanta person?
I am not. I came up here for law school. I grew up mostly in South Florida by way of the north, but I've been in Atlanta over half my life at this point.
Oh, you grew up in South Florida?
Yeah.
Okay. Where?
In Boynton Beach, Lake Worth area.
Ah, okay. I live in Delray Beach.
Excellent. That's my hometown. Went to Santa Lucia's High School.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I'm not from here. In fact, the business that I'm part of now was started in Boynton Beach, but I grew up in Boston. I'm a Bostonian, slid down the East Coast. So, okay, good stuff. So how'd you get started? Talk about your journey to become a lawyer. How did that happen?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I was in high school, I was always had a strong interest in politics and those sorts of things. Got to college, got into political science, kind of thought a little bit about going into politics or political campaigning as a career. Didn't really see that clear of a pathway to doing that professionally, and thought I would take the bar, the law school entrance exams, did decent enough on it that I was able to get into Emory Law School, and that sort of set me on my path. And it wasn't really until after I graduated from law school that I kind of solidified what I wanted to do as a lawyer.
Yeah, how'd you make the decision to be on defense professional liability?
Yeah, so it's funny. You go into law school and you think you're going to do this or you think you're going to do that, and you take all these different classes. I took some criminal law classes. I took a lot of business classes involving antitrust and intellectual property and things, thinking I wanted to do either white collar crime or something like that.
Yeah.
Got out. It was sort of a difficult time for hiring lawyers when I graduated. So I kind of picked up whatever job I could. Originally, for the first 5 years of my practice, I actually represented people who were suing others. And I had a partner who was doing medical malpractice plaintiffs work. As you get a little bit older in your career, and plaintiff's work is fun, but it's also sort of boom or bust. And I needed a little bit more steady employment. So my partner at the time kind of put me in touch with the former name partner of this firm, who was known in Georgia as having tried probably as many cases as anybody else in the state at that point. And I said I wanted to go learn from him and try the cases against the best lawyers in the state. And that's how I got involved doing defense. I kind of fell in love with it. I didn't know anything about medicine. I don't come from a family of doctors or anything like that. I saw it as kind of learning a new language, and so decided to get into the medical malpractice and found that I really liked it.
Interesting. I see you went Emory is, I mean, I always think of Emory for like epidemiology, right? Strong medical.
Very strong medical
Yeah.
school over there.
Yeah.
And the law school is always highly rated. I actually chose Emory and Atlanta because I wanted to graduate when the Olympics were in town in 1996, and felt it would be a fun, interesting place to be, the biggest city in the South. And I always wanted to live in a city. And so that's how I ended up choosing it, was fortunate enough to go to Emory.
Oh, excellent. That's an interesting selection process.
Very much so. But when you're young and you're looking around, but you're looking at, where am I going to live and where am I going to practice? And if I couldn't get to New York or a big city or something like that up in the north, what's the next biggest city in the South? Well, it was Atlanta, and it was growing and changing rapidly at the time, and seemed like a good opportunity. And a lot of people, I went to University of Florida for undergrad, and a lot of people were moving up to Atlanta. And so it seemed like the place to go if you were going to do that. And it turned out to be a very, one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, yeah. No, it's quite a big, growing, interesting city, Atlanta. Yeah.
Yeah, it has at least tripled in size since I moved up here. Yeah, it's been a fun transition for the city, and watching it grow and morph over the years. And I'm happy to be part of that community.
Do you live in the city or in the suburbs?
I live in the city. So the old Braves Stadium, the old Olympic Stadium, Turner Field, is in a neighborhood called Grant Park, and I'm about 3 blocks from the entrance to the old stadium.
Oh, nice. Very nice. I mean, I've only been to Atlanta a couple of times. I remember one time going there on a business trip, and I flew into the airport. I never even touched the ground. I took the train to Buckhead. I got out, I was in the building, had the meeting, and went back. And
Yeah, there's a lot of that, but yeah, we're fortunate in that regard to have the busiest airport going. And that was another attraction for the city, was having a nice airport that can get you anywhere quickly without a lot of connections. Is also a nice perk.
Yeah, for sure. Anyone else in your family attorneys, or you're the first one?
Nope, I'm the only one. I have an uncle who's a plaintiff's lawyer, retired plaintiff's lawyer down in South Florida, but for my immediate family, I'm the only one.
Got it. Interesting. So what was I going to ask you? You must work on some interesting things. Is there any like one memorable case that you can talk about that you worked on?
Sure, there's always memorable cases, and they mean different things in different contexts. The one memorable case was the first case I ever got to go try. It was we were on the plaintiff side, and it was a race discrimination case in the Northern District of Georgia. We represented, I believe it was 8 out of multiple members of a band from North Atlanta High School in Atlanta, who stopped at a Waffle House late in the evening in Commerce, Georgia, on their way back from a football game. And they were all African American. There was a white cook who used racial slurs and kicked them out of the Waffle House.
Yeah.
And we took it to trial on a race discrimination claim and got a sizable verdict that was pretty big at the time. And it was fun, not just because it was my first trial. It's the only trial I've done something like that in. And then there's been other trials along the way that have been very fun and memorable. The one I was mentioning, where we didn't have any expert witnesses or any of those other things, was an interesting experience for the partner and I who tried it at the time. We sort of stories that could fill up an entire podcast in and of itself from that
Yeah,
particular.
no, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm actually just I'm reading Just Mercy of Brian Stevenson right now. Do you know that book? Yeah.
I do not.
But he talks about, well, he's in Atlanta, but he spends time in Alabama and defending death row clients, and it's interesting, but it's all about basically what you were describing there, that discrimination.
Yeah. The thing about the trial cases is, there's always an excitement when you're doing it, and you're trying to figure out how you're going to explain to a jury what can oftentimes be a terribly complicated or disputed situation. And in the context of professional liabilities, particularly healthcare, you have to speak plain old English to folks, and you can't talk over them, and you can't talk down to them, and you got to talk to them and educate them on sometimes what are some very difficult and complicated medical subjects, even for clinicians and for physicians to sort through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know. I've heard that many, many times. I mean, and that it's like that in any business, honestly. You have to take complex concepts and simplify them so people can understand them that don't spend their whole life in that ecosystem, right?
Indeed.
Yeah. So I mean that is a real skill and a real trick. So I mean, would you say that's one of the skills that make someone more successful than others?
I think so. The challenge in the courtroom is really learning how to communicate with folks, get the feel for them. I mean, we tell folks all the time, sometimes we're looking at the jury constantly to see, are they falling asleep on us? Is it time for us to move on? Is it, are they getting it? Do we need to explain something more? It's a lot about reading body language and those sorts of things. And especially with modern jurors who are used to getting answers very quickly from devices and the internet and those sorts of things, how do we make sure that we get across to them what we need to? Because oftentimes we have legal things we have to do, even though they sound funny when we're in the courtroom asking somebody where they went to college, as an expert witness. But, we have to do those things for legal reasons, but then getting onto the concepts. But yeah, it's reading the room and understanding how your audience is receiving the messages is a critical skill set.
Yeah. No, I would imagine. So just you've been at it for a while. What would you say to a young lawyer who is thinking about becoming a lawyer?
Think about it long and hard. It's not an easy profession. And it's an intense profession, and it is a profession, and get into it for the right reasons. You have to want to be a lawyer. Law school's not fun. I didn't enjoy it. I don't know too many people who did. And it's an expensive proposition, it's a grad school, but get into it because you want to do the job. And being a lawyer is fun and can be very rewarding, but it's not something to take casually. Don't do it just because you don't have anything else to do. You gotta want to be in this profession because it's very intense, and it has a lot of responsibility. I mean, every lawyer is advising a client, and that is you're a fiduciary. You owe them certain duties and those sorts of things, and so it comes with it a lot of responsibility. So it's not something to take lightly, but it can be very rewarding if you appreciate those challenges.
Good. Excellent. Good stuff. So just final words here. How do you want to leave it with people if they want to know more about what you do and the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. That's a good question. Our website, it's csbl.law. That's Charlie, Sam, Victor, Lima.law law.
Or Copeland Steer Vols Level.
Yeah, that too. But that's the best way to learn a little bit about it. You can go through just our individual partners on there, or our practice groups, to find out a little bit more about it. I do run a healthcare litigation blog on LinkedIn,
Oh, nice.
where I post about recent cases in Georgia that come out, appellate decisions, and those sorts of things. And it's a fun way to keep up with the legal developments. It's mostly just Georgia, South Carolina, and Tennessee. But if anyone's interested in how the appellate courts view these types of cases, we try to summarize those and break them down for folks.
Oh, excellent. Good stuff. All right. Well, listen, this has been really enjoyable to learn more about what you do. Eric Frisch of, and I'm going to read it again, Copeland Steer Vos Lovell. How was that?
Yes. Thank you. And thank you for inviting me. This has
Oh,
been a
yeah,
lot.
yeah. And again, this show is sponsored by EmotionTrac with a C, and it is a legal tech platform that helps people like yourself with litigation. It's a digital platform to get insights for mediation and trials.
Excellent.
Thanks again, Eric.
Thank you.